Hello, my name is Steve Alf, and welcome to our presentation, Which is Better? A question I get asked a lot these days is, of the so-called second and maybe even third generation agile methodologies, which is the best? And answering a question like this sometimes is fairly loaded because discussions about agile methodologies sometimes take on the context of a holy war. But the reality is, asking which methodology is the best is like your kid asking you, what's your favorite color? Maybe at age 5 you had a favorite color. Mine was red. But as you mature, your decision-making process and thought process becomes a lot more nuanced. Now, one of the things I really want to assure you is that, honestly, selecting one of these methods over another is not going to be the cause of project failure. They all share many, many practices in common, that all the agile principles and practices you've come to know and love can be found in each one of these methodologies. So what makes them different? Well, the approach I would like to take here is to really look at them from the point of view of their true north. And this idea of the true north really comes from a wonderful book written by Pascal Dennis called Getting the Right Things Done. And I want to look at the strategic and philosophical intent of the methodology's authors for how they thought we should get the right things done. While they share common practices, there was a philosophical difference. There was, you might say, a true north, a center of gravity that the authors had in mind for their methodologies. The first one we'll look at is the so-called Scaled Agile Framework, or SAFe. If you visit the scaledagileframework.com website, you will see this. This is the SAFe big picture. And it shows all the practices and roles and artifacts and their relationships to one another for creating software. The true north, if you like, for SAFe can be seen here. This one little word here, software for the lean enterprise. Because at its core, SAFe is about bringing lean practices or highlighting how we can create the lean organization for developing software. Now, why is this important? Well, what a lot of organizations have done as they try to adopt agile practices is they frequently have adopted a model like this, the so-called water scrumming, where their dev teams are in fact employing agile, frequently organized as scrum teams or maybe as Kanban teams. But their upstream and downstream processes are still very much based on the waterfall model with lots of handoffs. So while we may have an improvement in the way that we actually code, we have not seen much of an improvement in the way that we do the analysis, we do the design, we do DevOps, and use that feedback to steer the entire process, which is a significant waste. And what SAFe is doing for us is to try and show how we could reorganize our teams around the value streams that deliver product and services within our organization, to reduce these handoffs and to get quick feedback. So this is the intent behind, you will see this over and over again, behind the Scaled Agile Framework. How do we organize ourselves around the value streams to create that lean software development enterprise? The next methodology is the Disciplined Agile Delivery System, or DAD. Now, contrary to popular belief, DAD is not a scaling methodology per se. It is actually a process decision framework. Yes, you can use it to create large-scale processes, but it's also a decision framework that works for small teams. The intent behind it is to be able to look at the context of your project environment, the people who are working on the project, the business criticality of your project, the architectural environment, the business environment, and be able to guide you through the steps to create the life cycle model that is appropriate for your team. And this goes back if you look at the authors or where their interest lies, this goes back to a concept that context matters. You know, this is something we've always said in software development, but this is really what I think is the true north of disciplined agile delivery, is trying to embody and encode this idea that context matters, and we have to look at the different context elements surrounding our project to design the appropriate methodology. Finally, there's large-scale Scrum. And large-scale Scrum, what it highlights is that it is Scrum, but now with a framework around it that helps encourage us to learn and adapt. So its strength is at its core that it's still Scrum, but the intention behind large-scale Scrum is to avoid building very, very large, complex, bureaucratic processes. It actually goes back to the roots of Agile, where Jim Highsmith once said, Agile should be a barely sufficient process. Because as the authors of LESS point out, there is a tendency to overbuild our methodologies. And what they do is take Scrum as a core and then provide guidance for progressively growing and adapting the methodology to the team or the teams and the context. So this is very much what I think, consider to be the true north of LESS, is the ability to continuously adapt the process, to be able to run experiments, learn what's working, and change your practices accordingly. So, with all that, looking at the different philosophical true norths, which is better? Because we have SAFE, which emphasizes the lean enterprise. We have LESS, which is learn through experimentation. We have disciplined agile delivery, which is context matters. Now, if I decide that, geez, that's a really tough choice because all of these are good. If I decide that, well, I'm going to adopt LESS, am I giving up lean organization or context matters? No. Clearly, when you're going to select the process or methodology for your project or for your program, you're going to use one of these, let's say, as your so-called center of gravity, right? And what I mean by that is from that is going to come, the name for your program or the name for your artifacts, the roles, the relationship, some of the relationships between the roles. So that's going to kind of give you your vocabulary and large scale, if you like, organizing concepts. But looking at your context, you're also going to want to be able to say, well, how do I design my process? And disciplined agile delivery provides a lot of guidance for that. LESS provides a concept of it's really important to adopt experiments and learn, this continuous learning. Adopting one over the other does not mean you're giving up the other. Definitely can borrow ideas. And for me, in the end, to be straightforward, a good methodology is really going to be a mashup of ideas and practices. So, one thing and one caution I would give you. You do risk failure if you try to make your team or your organization a textbook example of a methodology. Agile is about learning and adapting. And that is where your program could fail. But being able to look at what the true north of each one of these methodologies is, and being able to take a much more nuanced approach when somebody says, well, what is your favorite methodology? Well, just like our example here with the child asking their mother what their favorite color is, we can take a much more nuanced approach of how we can combine ideas together to create value for our customers. If you'd like to learn more about this, visit our website, developmentknowledge.com, or visit the websites associated with each one of the methodologies discussed in this video. Just simply click on the icon for more information. Thank you.